You never know who you're going to bump into in the streets of London, Ontario. And I have a super extra special guest. Come over here, April. April,
Hi, David.
how you doing? So nice to finally meet you. We've talked before. April, first of all, keep female sports, female double X chromosomes, I assume. April, are you not afraid that the London police are going to arrest you for hate speech?
No, well, first of all, it's not hate speech. Basically telling the truth, and I haven't done anything wrong, so yeah.
Now, April, as we were trying to point out when we're in the museum, just for your information, we were booted out by security, even though it was okayed by the reception to use photography. This temporary exhibit that's here until May, it's called Resilient London. It's all about people that, well, basically they've been dealt a bad hand of cards in their life, and they have turned their lives around. April, tell us about your story. You had a battle with the bottle, did you not?
I did. So growing up, I started drinking at a very young age. I struggled with alcohol addiction majority of my life. And I actually had a suicide attempt about 5 years ago because I just didn't find any cure for my alcoholism, really. Luckily, I found powerlifting, and I went to rehab, came out, got into powerlifting, and then with a short amount of time, I became a Team Canada member. And I mean, that was such a blessing to me. So, I mean, I had a lot of mental health struggles. Powerlifting really helped me. Part of my exhibit, well, my whole exhibit was talking about like past sexual trauma that I experienced as a kid. And then I got into drinking, tried to commit suicide. I was very vulnerable. Like I just kind of told the whole world my whole story, right? So, I mean, it was very disheartening for them to I felt like they just kind of kicked me to the curb. And, I'm still hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm still angry. And, they knew my platform from day one. So I'm still very shocked.
Well, indeed. And you were part of an exhibit here. Your story was being told. April, first and foremost, who is the assassin of your exhibit? Who pressured Museum London to cancel your story? By the way, your story is incredible. It completely fits the parameters of Resilient London, bouncing back from hardship. But again, April, who do you think is behind this that got to the executive director and chair and said, April Hutchinson must be canceled?
It could be a mix of people. I mean, from day one, the curator, Amber Livingston, knew my whole story, and she actually told me that they're not going to police anyone that's in the exhibit. They're not going to police what I do. They're not going to police anyone. So there's Sarah Padfield. She's the executive director. I'm not saying those are the people directly involved. They probably are, but it could have been an anonymous complaint from a transgender activist or a transgender athlete. I have no idea. They haven't given me any details. They literally just emailed me and said, you're gone.
This cancel culture we're in is outrageous. And April, I don't think there's any doubting the cause you are standing up for, protecting female sports, protecting female safe spaces. This should be applauded. First of all, where's the feminist movement when it comes to a biological woman like you being canceled because you've offended the sensibility of a transgender individual who, quite frankly, might be mentally ill?
Well, I get that question all the time. Where's the feminists? I mean, for the museum making an example out of me, same with my federation canceling me, right? Well, everyone's going to hide, right? Because they're trying to silence everyone by using me as an example. So, I mean, more and more people are going to be afraid to speak up. So, I mean, the feminists are there. They just need people like me and like Riley Gaines and other people to be outspoken. And I mean, I have a huge amount of support. We just need those voices to be heard and people to speak up more.
Yeah, well, I would think if feminism was a righteous thing right now, there'd be a bunch of individuals picketing this museum based on what happened to you. My personal belief, April, is that this is either too much of a third rail issue for the feminists to tackle, or they actually believe this nonsense that a so-called trans woman is a real woman. That's what we keep being told, but it's not the truth, is it?
No, it's absolutely not the truth. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science or a grade 10 biologist to understand that. And I mean, this doesn't come down to like hating a certain group of people, being mean or hate or anything like that. When it comes down to sports, which is my platform, it's bodies that play sports, not identities. And we have to stick to biology. We got to call a spade a spade. We have to call a man and a woman a woman.
And increasingly, it looks like if you dare to do so, you are canceled. Exhibit A yourself, April Hutchinson. Ann Anders, tell me about this cat. I've heard of sore losers. I rarely hear about sore winners, but when he won an event, he was absolutely vicious in his comments. He was mocking biological women. He compared them to T-Rexes having little tiny arms. His words.
Why is women's bench so bad? I mean, not compared to me. We all know that I'm a tranny freak, so that doesn't count. And no, we're not talking about Mackenzie Lee. She's got little T-Rex arms and she's like 400 pounds of chest muscle, apparently.
Why is he getting a pass on his vulgarity to biological women?
I mean, that goes back to March when he first did that video of mocking females. I mean, it's been through the whole year. He's actually called me names. I've been bullied, cyberbullied and slandered the whole year from just trans rights activists I haven't actually done anything, but I'm the one that got suspended. So, I mean, I'm dealing with a biased board of members with the Federation. Obviously, I'm dealing with a biased board here at the museum as well.
You know, it breaks my heart that an institution like a museum is about cancel culture. That's the last thing a museum should be about. We also must talk about your sports federation, who laid down a 2-year suspension to you, not for taking steroids or any kind of performance-enhancing drug, but maybe for having an impolite or insensitive opinion regarding trans athletes, who I really believe are gender bender male grifters gaming the system, to tell you the truth. What is the latest on that? I understand, A, you're appealing that outrageous suspension, and B, didn't the president of your association step down?
He did. He did step down about 3 weeks ago, and probably was a really good move on his part. He was a coward. I said it from day one. He was a coward. He never protected women in our sports. He didn't protect girls. He ignored my emails. He ignored everyone's emails. Like, he did nothing about it. So that was like a step in the right direction for sure. So let's hope whoever takes over for him actually goes out and protects women in sports.
You know, isn't it perversely ironic, April, that when I think of powerlifting, I think of such a masculine, macho, strong sport. And I'm not saying women should be excluded from that. You have proven what an incredible competitor you are. And yet we had this former head of your association. Maybe he was strong on the outside when it came to lifting a few barbells, but incredibly weak on the inside when it came to ethics and morals, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I think people in this federation or leaders like that are more so leading with ego and not principles and morals. And I mean, then that's completely wrong, right? So, I mean, when you're not protecting women or you're not protecting just the sport in general and fairness, you should be removed. I've said this all along in the last year that the whole CPU board should be resigning.
Yes. I totally agree with you. And what did you make, too, of the fact that not only has Museum London canceled you, but apparently they don't want this to be known. It seems that there's a media blackout about what happened to you. They want this to remain a secret. My camerawoman Avery and I, we were booted out of the museum under threat of trespass. We weren't, defacing any of the exhibits. We were simply reporting. What do you make of that?
I mean, again, they're cowards. I know probably about 100 or more people that actually wrote them direct emails. My father, who's a retired OPP officer, he actually wrote them probably a 3-page letter. And he's like, I was on the police force. I know what hate speech is. This is not hate speech. And I mean, that was probably the best letter I've ever seen in my life. It was really touched me, and they just, no response from them at all. So, I mean, they're cowards. They're cowards. And I mean, they probably won't say anything. I wouldn't be surprised, but...
April, it's not just your sport that's under attack. We've seen this in rugby. We've seen this in swimming, field hockey, you name it. I'm just wondering, do you have any theories regarding what's behind this. If the planet has 8 billion people, that means 4 billion are biological women. The trans community, it's a percent of a percent of a percent. I mean, it's not even a rounding error, for goodness sake. Like I said, there's also the element of mental illness at play. Why are we bending the knee to these people?
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to being silenced. I mean, people, they're sending a message, right? They will, like, look what happened to me. People are not going to speak up if you get canceled or you're silenced, right? Like, thank God I have a strong will. I have a very strong personality, right? Because the next person could be a little bit weaker and they wouldn't do anything about it, right? But me, I'm strong. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to fight this to the very end. And I will not be quiet about it. But I mean, there could be many different reasons, but as far as the whole athletics go, I do believe it's male dominance. If they wanted to compete and just be happy competing, then they would be happy at a local level competing. We have offered to create separate categories. They are not happy with that. We saw that happening with the swimming category there. No one showed up, right, to compete. So I do believe it's about male dominance, about being number one. It also to do with misogyny, for sure.
You know, I think you're bang on. You're referring, of course, to World Aquatics. And back in October, they had their national event in Berlin, Germany. And they had an open category for the first time ever. And you said it. Nobody showed up. I thought this community was clamoring for years and years. Let us be in the event. World Aquatics created a category. Nobody came. Does that maybe suggest, as you're implying, there's something more to getting involved in female sports, i.e. dominating, i.e. changing and showering in the female locker room? Could this be what it's all about, really?
It could very well be. I'll bring up a good point here. Strongman Corporation here in Canada, I actually put the pressure on them because they had a transgender athlete going to nationals. So I contacted the president. I said, this can't be happening. You need to change the policy. They changed the policy within 1 week. They created a separate category. That transgender athlete pretended that he was so happy he had his own category. And I said, nope, give it a week. He'll be angry. He'll do something. Gave it a week. And he blasted, social media posts about how he's looking forward to pissing beside all the competitors and just ranting and raging and swearing. And he got suspended for 6 months, like rightfully so.
Incredible. Well, April, I think we've covered most of the main issues regarding this story. I wish you success in appealing that outrageous suspension of 2 years. Is there anything else that's relevant to this story in terms of Museum London kicking you out of the Resilient London exhibit that I might have missed?
Well, I mean, I think it's important for the viewers to understand the whole story because they only see bits and pieces online. So I was first contacted back in October to be an exhibitor. I actually helped the curator find contributors for the show. Back last year, they did get an anonymous complaint from someone on the outside saying that I was transphobic. And I said, well, can you tell me a little bit about this complaint? And they said, we heard you're a part of this group called Save Women's Sports. And I said, that's right, I am. It's a whole bunch of Olympic athletes, women that don't want to create fairness in sport. And they said, oh, okay, well, we won't police what you do. We'll go ahead with the exhibit. And then a year later, I've been on Tucker Carlson. I've been on Piers Morgan 3 times. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks after opening night, they yank my exhibit. So.
And April, one final question. The morality police that patrol Museum London, evidently you're persona non grata for having the temerity to make insensitive or impolite comments about transgender athletes. But how many people in that exhibit might have skeletons in their closet too? Are they doing investigations, the thought police here, in terms of something that they might have said or done that's offside, and therefore your exhibit goes down too?
Yeah, well, they better start looking into everyone's backgrounds and history and criminal records because,
Wow.
So, yeah, I have no idea what they're up to, but I mean, it's completely unfair. And I mean, this almost hurts more than the Federation because it's attacking my character. I have no ill will towards transgender at all. I'm a very, like I said, compassionate, empathetic person. I'm a volunteer in the community. I help people with mental health issues. So, I mean, it was just quite a big shock, and I'm still very, very hurt.
Well, April, thank you so much for your time. I think you're an exceptionally strong lady, not just in the weights that you lift, but in terms of your ethical and morality codes. I think you're on the right side of history for this. I wish you all the success. And for you, Julie Bevan, if you think that inclusion and equity and diversity is all about canceling a strong woman like April Hutchinson from your exhibit, you're dead wrong. Even though you are female, I think you're a misogynist. You are a coward. You're giving us the silent treatment, but we're getting the story out nevertheless. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Folks, the April Hutchinson story goes from bad to putrid. First, her sports association gives her a 2-year suspension. Now, Museum London cancels her exhibit. Her crime, wrong thought. For just speaking the truth, she is persona non grata. We don't think that's right. I don't think you think that's right either. Please go to our new website, that's standwithapril.com. That's standwithapril.com. Sign the petition, and if you can, kindly make a donation so we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.